Have you ever found yourself dating the same type of person over and over again, wondering why you keep attracting the wrong people? Or maybe you're clear on what you don't want, but when somebody asks you what you're actually looking for, you just sort of draw a blank. I used to think that getting specific about what I wanted in a partner would somehow shrink my dating pool, like I was being too picky or limiting my options. But what I didn't realize was how much time and emotional energy I was wasting on people who are never going to be a good fit anyways. It's like I was operating from this scarcity mindset, thinking that I had to keep my options wide open, when really I was just keeping myself wide open to disappointment. Recent studies actually show that people who have a clear vision of what they want in a relationship are 40% more likely to find lasting love within 2 years. Meanwhile, those who cast this really wide net and hope for the best usually find themselves stuck in the same frustrating patterns for years. The truth is, we live in a time where dating has become more complicated than ever. We have endless options, probably too many options, through apps, but somehow connection feels harder to find, elusive almost. We're more guarded because we've been hurt before. But that same protection is keeping genuinely good people at a distance. And most of us don't even realize that we're doing it. I have watched friends swipe through hundreds of profiles, go on dozens of dates, and still feel like they're not any bit closer to finding their person. They'll tell me about the guy who seemed perfect until he wasn't sexually aggressive enough, or the woman who looked good on paper but didn't really have any curiosity about what he was into. And I used to think that these were just bad luck or incompatibility issues. But what if I told you that the people who find lasting love aren't just lucky? What if they're doing something fundamentally different in how they approach dating? What if the secret isn't about changing who you are, but about getting crystal clear on who you are and what you actually want, not just what you think you should want? The person I'm talking to today has spent over 2 decades studying this exact thing. She helps people understand not just how to attract the right person, but how to become the kind of person who naturally draws in healthy, lasting love. And here's what might surprise you. Most of the dating advice out there is missing a really critical piece. It's not just about finding someone who checks your boxes. It's about actually understanding your own boxes, your own patterns, healing the wounds that keep you stuck, and learning to communicate in a way that creates genuine connection instead of pushing people away. Today, our guest is Marni Kinrys, creator of the Wing Girl Method and a dating expert who's been helping people find love for over 21 years. She has a unique perspective on what actually works in modern dating versus what we think should work. So in this episode, you will learn how to get clear on what you actually want in a partner, beyond surface level preferences, and why this clarity is the key to attracting the right person. The difference between people who date successfully versus those who just date often, and the mindset shifts that make all the difference. And why most of us are unconsciously repelling the very people we want to attract, and the simple changes that can transform how others see you. Before we go deep today, I want to give you a little gift, and I want to give it to you every single day. It's called the Morning Mind Love. I know how life can be. You're all fired up after an inspiring episode, and then a new day or a new challenge comes at you, and it's just hard to keep up that energy. Well, the Morning Mind Love is kind of like an oracle from your higher self to help you start each day with a positive focus. Plus, when you sign up, you get 2 free gifts, a 30-minute binaural meditation and 30 days of journaling prompts to help you remember who you truly are. And it's all completely free. So join over 9,000 people and go to mindlove.com to sign up, or text the word morning to 33777.
Some of them fight against it. Some of them get really uncomfortable because they're not ready for it yet. But most of them, when they come to me, they're ready. They're like, this has not worked for the past 20 years. What do I do now? Or this didn't work with my ex-wife. What do I do now? Right? So we have the bare bones basics of the physical appearance that we have to work on. And then we get to the mentality. And then we get to their belief systems and their values. And then we get to the tools that they have to use for attraction, where they learn how to flirt, they learn how to banter. Really what they're learning to do is have fun with life and not take it so seriously. So, it's very nice to be able to just say bluntly to a man, would you sleep with you right now? And they have to really look at themselves and say, yeah, you know what? I probably wouldn't. Okay, so now there's work to be done. We're not going to change who you are. We're just going to zhuzh up what we've got in front of us. And that's going to take effort from you.
Turn up your frequency with Mind Love. Bite-sized brain hacks for seekers, dreamers, and doers. It's time to give your mind a little love with your host, Melissa Monti.
How did you begin? I know you've created a system that helps men find love without sacrificing who they are, but I want to know what it took for you to learn how to do that yourself.
I've been doing this for 21 years, and every step of the way, whatever I'm fixated or focusing on with men has been helping me in some way. And every time that I learn, I'm also, I guess learn for them, I'm learning for myself. So every expert that I talk to, every program that I create, everything I write down that is my point of view, just anything that I do, any woman that I talk to, it's helping me along the way to realize how I can be more open, I can be better, I can hear the other side. I'm trying to think what else it's done for me, but like really, it's if I could talk to my 18-year-old self, I would just be a completely different person. Like the way that I view the world now is just totally, totally different in that there's a gray zone. Back then, there was not a gray zone. It was all black and white. I can see the other person's perspective constantly, or at least I attempt to. And if I can't see it clearly, I ask for clarification. And even though most of my coaching is about attraction, and it's what women are feeling and thinking about attraction, and then relaying the information to men, and then giving them the steps along the way that they have to do in order to attract women and become the masculine men that women want. Every step is based in psychology. It's based in mindfulness. It's based in understanding your own self-value. So everything that I've done to enhance that for the men that I work with, it's also had double the impact on me. And the fact that I get to talk about it every single day is what's reinforcing it for me continuously. That's a long-winded answer, but that's how I've done it for myself.
Yeah. I love long-winded answers, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, good. We're going to get a lot of them, so stay tuned.
Perfect. You're in the right place. What would you say is the biggest difference between someone who's actually dating successfully versus just dating often?
Oh, that's an interesting question. The people who are dating successfully, they have a clear view of why they're dating, whether it's for casual or it's for serious relationships. They're successful because they're on the path towards what it is that they want, and they're acting congruently with that path. It can still become very heartbreaking if they're not getting what it is that they want, but hopefully they're also acting in a way that understands that dating is a process. So I think like the more clear you are about what you want to yourself, to others, and then about understanding that it's a process and you're not gonna, kiss one frog and get your prince at the end, that you're gonna kiss a million frogs, and maybe potentially you will find the person that you want. The people who are casually, or you didn't say casually, but what was the other
Often.
word?
Just often.
Who are dating often. I mean, dating often can still have that same mentality, but maybe on the flip side of dating unsuccessfully, who are more burnt in dating the wrong people, or dating in a very frustrated way and getting really upset with the outcomes and the process. Those are the ones who aren't really being present in the process. So, for example, I know this amazing dating coach whose name is totally escaping me right now, but she was doing a lot of work with women, and she got a divorce during her working with women phase, and she started to date again and started using online, which she had not done in her previous marriage. And she decided that she was going to be really smart about being online. So she was very clear about what she wanted. She took weeks and weeks and weeks to plot out her plan, her vision board for what it was that she was looking for and who it was that she wanted to bring into her life, how she wanted to feel around that person. Everything was plotted out really, really well. So she had a clear vision. It wasn't like a meticulous way of looking at it, but a very clear way of looking at it so that she felt good about going down the path online. When she got online, her online profile was congruent. When she got online, the men that she selected were congruent with that mission. When she had men write back to her, her responses back were congruent. She selected men to go on dates with based on what she had in her vision. So by the end of the process of dating online, for only 2 months, using 3 different online websites, she ended up meeting the person who's now her second husband. And they got married fairly quickly afterwards and are still together. This was 7 years ago when she did this process. So, like, when you are more clear about what you want and you feel good about that, the things that you bring into your life, the people that you bring into your life, the relationships that you bring into your life are going to fall in line with things that make you happy. So you will be more successful versus the other side that's less successful. They throw a big net out. They get pulled in by what they're attracted to. Men that I work with get pulled in by what, titillates them in some way, and they get sucked in by women who are scamming them online or leading them on or leading them down the wrong path because they're not being congruent with what it is that they are. And therefore they become disappointed, disenfranchised, unhappy, and frustrated. So that's the difference.
When I look back at my dating journey before I got clear, I felt like the more, and this is going to be so sad to say out loud, but I think a lot of people are going to be resonating with this. Subconsciously, this wasn't a conscious thing. I think I felt that the more I really identified what I wanted, it's like I would be shrinking the dating pool or something like that.
Totally.
But we don't realize how much time we waste on the unimportant. Also, even just by narrowing these things down, it's not just narrowing down the pool. It's also more likely to find somebody you're actually going to align with and not be distracted by everything else. And I love how you also brought up like potentially getting scammed by people, because that's a real thing these days. And it reminds me of the phrase, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And it's kind of like how predators can spot their prey. They can spot children with poor household situations, women who have been abused before, things like that. Scammers can spot people who aren't standing for anything. And so they're like, oh, these are the people that seem a little desperate, so they might just fall for this.
Yeah. And the truth is, and I appreciate you saying that because I think it's totally true. The truth is that most people have been in that state in one point in their life. Right. So when I was going through a breakup and I was in stress mode, panic mode, feeling horrible about myself mode, I probably would have latched on to things that I would never latch on to now. Right. So I think I think all of us can get into that place where we make poor choices. But one other thing that you did say about you getting clear about what you want, I think it might be a good idea to dive into like what that actually looks like. Because I've had guys come in and say, I don't want her to do this. I don't want her to do that. I don't want this. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. If you have your top 3 like no's that are definite deal breakers, then yes, put those out there for sure. But just know it can still be negotiated at some point, right? Depending on what it is. If she happens to be extremely selfish, then obviously that's off the table. But the bigger things that you're looking for and that need to be in your vision board is about how you feel around her or him. I'm going to do for both sides. How you feel around that person, who you want to be around that person, how you want them to feel when they're around you, the values that they have as a human being. They're not like nitpicky little tiny things that you're putting onto this vision of yours. I think it's more of like, even though I'm saying be clear on what you want, it's not as niche and specific as what others may think, because that can narrow their options for sure, but it can turn them into negative Nelly detectives versus really good, solid daters.
Yeah. I have a dumb non-negotiable because of my first boyfriend. He used to eat chips off of his belly, and I was so repulsed by it that I have that conversation with every relationship past that. Do you eat chips off of your belly? Because if so, this is a hard no.
That's so funny. Okay, but let's say now with your husband, if you obviously really liked him, he fit into every category. And if he one day said, look what I can do, and he was off of his belly, Would that be like, I'm breaking up with you now?
No, it's
Even so, it is negotiated. It can be.
well, there's a big thing inside of that because he doesn't watch TV and he doesn't have a belly. So, it's underlying these other things of like my first boyfriend used to like watch The Simpsons, belly out, eating chips off the belly. And so there was just so much wrapped up in that it was less about the specifics, and that specific was representative of these other things. I'm not a lazy person. I watch shows, but I don't want to bond over that at night. I want to bond over talking. I want to be active. I want to take care of our bodies. And so I think that's what it was underneath. But I didn't know the underneath until I started to get clear. And I think we're surprised by how often we don't know the specifics of our desires. I work with people on this when it comes to their businesses or aligning the rest of their life. And it takes a lot of intention. We think that we know ourselves, and so we just know what we want. But if you don't take the space to get clear on what you want, you're not going to know. You're going to have these little bits of things like, nope, no chips on your belly, and not really know what that's about. You know what I mean? This is bringing it down and saying like, what are the things that are important to me, and what's underneath that? What are the values that are underneath that? When you know those values, it lays out all of the specifics, or many of the specifics, or at least the guideposts toward all of these things that you didn't even realize were going to bring you joy, but you can discover them with your new love or your new interest because you are aligned on the value behind them. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Men today face a ton of pressure to perform, to provide, to keep it all together. So it's no wonder that 6 million men in the US suffer from depression every year, and it's often undiagnosed. We need to talk about this because the stigma around men's mental health is literally killing people. Real strength isn't about carrying everything alone. It's about opening up about what you're dealing with and doing something about it. If you're feeling the weight of the world, talk to someone. A friend, a loved one, a therapist. There is no shame in getting help. Therapy isn't just for crisis moments. It's for learning better coping skills, setting boundaries, becoming the best version of yourself. It helps you show up better for everyone in your life. BetterHelp has over 35,000 therapists, and they've served more than 5 million people globally. Their app has a 4.9 out of 5 rating based on over 1.7 million client reviews, and that tells you something. You can start a session with a click of a button. It fits into your busy life, and if you don't click with your therapist, switch at any time. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/mindlove. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/mindlove. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Men today face a ton of pressure to perform, to provide, to keep it all together. So it's no wonder that 6 million men in the US suffer from depression every year, and it's often undiagnosed. We need to talk about this because the stigma around men's mental health is literally killing people. Real strength isn't about carrying everything alone. It's about opening up about what you're dealing with and doing something about it. If you're feeling the weight of the world, talk to someone. A friend, a loved one, a therapist. There is no shame in getting help. Therapy isn't just for crisis moments. It's for learning better coping skills, setting boundaries, becoming the best version of yourself. It helps you show up better for everyone in your life. BetterHelp has over 35,000 therapists, and they've served more than 5 million people globally. Their app has a 4.9 out of 5 rating based on over 1.7 million client reviews, and that tells you something. You can start a session with a click of a button. It fits into your busy life, and if you don't click with your therapist, switch at any time. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/mindlove. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/mindlove.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's interesting. So, do you know Jordan Harbinger, or have you ever listened to his podcast?
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Okay, so he's a friend of mine as well. And I love his podcast. So I listened to his podcast and he had, I forget who it was that was on, but it was the author of a book that was talking about like basically why smart people believe in conspiracy theories and why they, double down on really seemingly stupid things. And this guy was talking about how when we're stressed, we have less brain functionality and we can make poor choices. I think it's like 20% or 25% less cognitive, um, what's the word for it? Ability when you are stressed out. And then he was talking about like how you get people to shift their beliefs, which I think this advice can actually go hand in hand with what you're talking about. And he was saying that the way to shift a person's perspective or to broaden their perspective on something is really just to be kind in your questioning about what it is that they think, feel, and believe. So it's really just being curious rather than attacking towards something. Because if you attack or you put down, that person's going to double down. So if I were to say to you, you really don't want to have somebody who eats food off their chips, you're going to say, damn, yes, I do not want off their belly. Right. I don't want somebody to eat chips off of their belly. Like never. And I don't want somebody who does this, and this. You're going to double down on it. But if I were to be inquisitive and just like ask questions that probably makes you think through this decision that you made from a snap judgment, you can actually see where the extensions are. And you would get to the place which you got to on your own, obviously, of saying, oh, you know what? It's really about like laziness and taking care of yourself and about health and somebody who wants to be active and not just have their lives in front of the television. That's the value that I really have. So I love what you're saying about that because like figuring out the why behind a belief really is what connects you to the bigger story and then the value is there. So I find that journaling is really great, having a conversation with your friend and telling them to ask you more questions, or even ChatGPT has been like my new therapist recently, where I'll say things and I'll type stuff in and it can ask me good probing questions where I don't feel attacked in any way. And then I can dig deeper and I can say that, my big prompt is I'm trying to figure out the value that's behind these beliefs that I have, or these thoughts that I have, or these rules that I have. And it will help you get to that place.
See, it's funny because that conspiracy theory tangent brought me to another one that's underneath. I can't date somebody that automatically goes with groupthink and doesn't look behind things that look like a smear campaign. Because I've found that so often a conspiracy theory, they try to paint it to sound dumb, but if you actually go deeper behind it, if you actually look up, okay, where is this coming from? What are the studies behind this? Where's the money going to this? Conspiracy theories are being proven every single day. It's just usually 20 years after it's happening. And so the problem is people don't ever believe that conspiracy theories are happening or conspiracies are happening right now, but we can find thousands of them that have happened, that have come to light almost every single year. So that alone was like oh yeah, if I was on a date with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I believe in no conspiracy theories, I'm like, so you're just going to let people take advantage of you your entire life, aren't you?
Yeah. But the thing is that if you were to ask better questions that were more curious, you would probably realize that he has similar beliefs to you.
Yes.
So like at face value, you could write him off saying like, you're an idiot. You like don't believe in conspiracy theories. But if you actually ask like maybe more probing questions, that saying something like, oh, that's so interesting. You know what?
I always trust the pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
There's this one video that's a comedian and he's like, when people say they don't believe in conspiracy theories, it's like, you don't believe in any conspiracy theories. You think the government's just out there batting 1,000 or something? And I'm like, I could date.
Exactly. But the interesting thing is that like if you had 5 guys who said that to you on a date, I bet you 3 out of 5 of them actually are more in line with what you think versus that blanket statement at first. And I am not saying that you have to give every single person a chance. That can be like your one red flag. Right. But if you have 10 red flags on the date where you're like, he wasn't nice to the waiter, he did this, he showed up late, he likes watching television all the time, that's his only hobby, and he's not into conspiracy theories, then you say, no, not for me. And we had no chemistry. But if it was like a great date and that one thing, which I know is a big thing for you, if that one thing were to pop out on your next date, you can tell some stories from your side or ask questions that are non-attacking and see if that's really a true belief for him and defines a value for him. And that value would be for you that you're doing a podcast. You obviously like to research things, question things, explore things, right? So either you want somebody in your life that respects the fact that you do that, not necessarily do it as well, or that also likes to see the world that way, that there's like a million different reasons why things happen. And there's potentially always a story behind a story. And one thing that you hear has 10 other sides that is not being presented to you. So it's just, again, figuring out what your value is behind that and then asking the right questions to see if they're in line with that value for you.
When you look at how men and women date, since you work primarily with men, what do you think some of those different struggles are, like that you have to get beyond in order to start dating successfully?
They're exactly the same.
Really?
It's crazy. And I'm sure there are little nuances, obviously, but I am in a world of dating coaches, right? So I talk to a million people who work with women, and I have my men that I work with, and I talk to other male coaches. Every single thing that my male clients say is in line with what their female clients say to them. So every time that my guys say it's not fair, it's so easy for women to just go out to anywhere and have sex and do this, and like they never have to do this, they never have to do this, they flake all the time, they ghost, they lead me on. I'll say, you know that women think exactly the same thing about dating. They think so. I listen. There are nuances. Yes, we can dive into them. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an analyst of the dating sphere. I'm looking to see what my guys are saying, and what I am seeing is they say almost exactly the same things as the female clients of my friends who are coaches to women. Exactly the same things.
Yeah, I found that, again, so often it's like it's wrapped in, you think it's going to be different, but it's just wrapped in something different. Like they might use slightly different word choices, but it's kind of like how we've been talking with everything. Ask some questions about get down to the deeper fear, and those are the most common. What are the most common things that then men and probably women are fearful of that creates settling or staying alone?
Well, fears of being lonely, fears of rejection, fears of not being accepted, fears of not being good enough, fears of saying the wrong things, fears of not being interesting, fears of losing attraction and having a marriage or relationship that's similar to your parents, fears of being divorced, fears. I'm trying to think of what else. They're all the basic same fears, I would say, that most people have. It's being alone, being rejected, and being undervalued in some way, of not being good enough. And I know this because I've interviewed thousands of women now in order to give advice to the guys that I work with. And I've worked with hundreds of thousands of men. And we have them fill out surveys and applications. And again, below their words, the fears that I just listed are the ones that scream out the most. Really, the biggest one that I hear is fear of not being good enough, which is a fear that I have as well. You know,
it's why everyone has imposter syndrome, whether in business or in a relationship. Yeah. It's interesting because I have to say, the older I get, the more grateful I am for my relationship. It's sometimes hard for me to talk about with people because we are so compatible. We don't have a lot of issues. Like, of course we get in arguments, but we both handle it to where, like, a lot of times I'll just make my argument even more extreme to just bring humor to it, and then we'll like laugh about it together. We just did this retreat for our 10-year anniversary, and we got a Mayan couples reading, and they were sitting there like, we never see this type of compatibility, even the colors are exactly matching. We're like, really? We know, but how is it that this is it's showing you as well. And then I downloaded the Pattern app, and they've got this like relationship feature. And I just did my best friend, and it says like, your relationship is chill. And then I put in my husband, and it's like exceptional. It's glowing red. And I was like, we knew it, right? And that makes me think
that. You did that. You even said that at the beginning of us talking. You actively made that choice.
Yes, yes. And my advice to so many of my friends who are still in the dating pool is, I feel like you'll know, right? Like, you have to know. There was something so wildly different when I met this relationship. And I also have multiple married friends where there's a couple of them where I'm like, of course they're going to make it. They even look the same somehow. They're wildly compatible. And so my advice has always been to have people hold out for that. But now I'm wondering, am I just lucky? Did I really luck out? Of course I picked and I did all the things, but is that possible for everyone? Because my single friends seem to come back like, no one's going to find someone like you and Shane. And I'm like, but hold out. I think you can.
The answer is that I don't know, because my story is the complete opposite to that. But it's interesting because my husband and I, we are not compatible on so many levels. We are completely different on so many levels. But at the same time, we're also both very stubborn. We both like challenges. And we both like to argue to understand our points of view, which we've only learned that about ourselves recently, because that type of behavior was horrible in the beginning. I was 23 when I met him. He was 10 years older than me. I hadn't grown into who I was going to be. And same with him. He hadn't grown into who he was going to be, or I guess he was 34. He was already who he was. But we had a very difficult time connecting, but we both knew we felt comfortable with each other. We felt good about each other. We were attracted to one another, and we liked each other more than we liked other people. So that was like a telltale sign for both of us, even though we combated so much. And I will say we've been together for 21 years, and we've only in the past 4 years gotten much better at communicating so that we can realize we're actually more on the same page than on completely different pages. So we took, like the Gottmans. I think it's the Gottmans. Shoot, is it? We did this course, Safe Conversations with Each Other, and this was the world I was immersed in. So, for so long I was trying to get him to be like the guys that I was teaching and all of this. But then we finally took this course together where somebody else was teaching it to us, and it transformed our relationship. Having him become more skillful in conversation about emotions, about understanding where they came from, about giving us a template so that he could respond without being defensive was extremely huge for both of us. And it helped us repair a lot of the tension we had created over the years. And now we're in a very good place. And I know that I'm hopefully not going to jinx it by saying this, but we will be a till you die couple, because we both continue to work on ourselves and are open to hearing the other person. Plus, we have this amazing tool now that can make us really strong communicators. So it's interesting. So I don't know the answer to your question, because I don't know if what you have is possible for other people. But I do know from what you've said is that you were careful about how you selected somebody to be in your life, right? And you're probably really mindful and careful about how you communicate things to that person, which also makes them mindful and careful with you. I was not. I was withholding. I was a poor communicator in the very beginning of our relationship. I didn't say what my wants were. So there was a lot of mind reading going on, and then a lot of resentment being built up because of lack of mind reading, and then a lot of programming that happened in the beginning of a relationship. So I think it comes down to you as an individual and how you decide to navigate the dating world. That can dictate whether or not you get into a space similar to you, or it can dictate whether or not you grow into the relationship space that I'm in.
Yeah, I have to give you props on finding your true partner at 23. I was such a mess at 23. I didn't know what I want. I didn't know what I wanted in a relationship. I didn't know what I wanted for lunch, let alone a relationship for the rest of my life. And so I did happen to, it was the right time for me. I was in my late 20s when I met him. We got married right before I turned 30. And I think your point on growing together, That's been the biggest thing for us too, because even though we felt so compatible and we were laughing together all the time, if we weren't growing together, I wouldn't date that guy that I met 10 years ago now. You know what I mean? We're completely different people, but that was one of our points of we were reading similar books. We were both building businesses. And so we were so aligned in that. But he also knows, like, I expect him to continue to grow, and not in some mean way. That's the kind of person he is. And so it would create a whole personality shift for him to all of a sudden not be coming along with me. And I think if you're both not chasing, but on the path of growth, people worry that you're going to grow apart. But usually when you're on a path towards growth, you're on a path towards authenticity, on a path towards truth, on a path towards love. And so it's really hard to grow in completely different directions when you're on a growth path, unless you're just growing into your own ego, which isn't true growth. It's stubbornness.
Right. But even if like one of you did grow towards that direction and one of you didn't, right? That's the growth that person's having, and that's the growth that you're having. And maybe it could lead to a total disconnect. But because you're both so focused on growth, I feel like you would understand and accept that and notice it and just decide this is not right for us. Not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying I think there is potential for everything to always happen. Like even if both people are like, yes, we always want to stay active. Yes, we always want to be sparking our minds. Yes, we always want to have great conversations and have a hunger for information and for betterness for ourselves. But certain people can latch onto certain ideas and beliefs and desires that do take them in different directions, even though they're both growing. That's what I've seen happen. So it's not always that one person is wanting to grow and the other person is staying stagnant. It can be both people deciding to grow, and they can grow out of that relationship potentially.
True. Yeah, I can see maybe one going the spiritual path, the other one wants nothing to do with it, creates a disconnect. So there are ways to do that. I think for me, we both have different interests. I would say I spend more time in spiritual devotion than he does. He's interested in what I have to say when I bring it to him, though. He'll ask questions. He doesn't just shut off. I think that's important when dealing with each other's differences just even if you're not interested, like I have to pretend to be interested in sports. I could care less about sports, but my husband will also come together with me with that. He just made a joke the other day where he gave me like some background dating drama of like one of the players, and he's like, "See, that would get you. I knew it would get you."
Yes, it did. It got me.
Like, I just need to give you the backstory of the characters to rope you in, and then all of a sudden,
you're interested. I get it. I'm like, tell me about their love lives, not about like how many touchdowns they've gotten, and then I can participate. That's why football became so popular with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. They're more interested in the love story than in the football. But I totally agree with you. And I think at the end of the day, it's about respect for the other person. It's about respecting what they do and who they are, not necessarily also becoming who they are. It's about having your own space and respecting that each person has their own space and their own personality, their own way, but they can still respect it.
I find people are becoming more attuned to the idea that, or at least in the circles I hang out with,
that I know, that's the problem, right?
Yes, no,
exactly. You're like, I'm in the bubble too. I'm like, wait, people actually talk differently than us? Yeah.
I know, but they become, at least the knowledge is getting out there. You can find it on Instagram to get clear on what you want. But we have a blind spot often to, are you girlfriend material? Are you wife material? Are you husband material? Whoever we're talking to. How do you help people prepare? And I think this is a tricky one because everyone deserves love exactly as they are. But at the same time,
maybe.
I love that you challenged that. I think we all deserve love, and we need it even more when we're completely broken. It's just, you might not deserve a committed container quite yet, but we all deserve love. Usually it's from ourselves. How do you prepare to put yourself out there so that you feel confident in what you're bringing to the table?
It's everything that we just talked about. It's about like figuring out who you are and striving for what it is that you want, even if it's something very minimal. I am a janitor that works at a high school. I want to make sure that I go to work every single day and I give it my all. And even if it's not my passion job that I have, I'm going to come home and I'm going to put effort into many areas of my life. I'm going to make effort with my friends, with my family. And even if I don't talk to my family right now, then I'm going to put effort into being okay with not talking to my family. Like, it's really about how you carry yourself moving forward. So one of the first questions that we ask the guys that I work with is like, would you sleep with you? Would you sleep with you as you are right now?
Tell me what the responses are to this.
Most of them say no, I would not, because you look at some of these guys who have like 2 missing teeth, they've got like long hair, they've got horrible like hygiene, and then they're like, if I want to date a 10, would you sleep with you right now? Would you have guys are they're so wonderful to work with because
there's so much room for improvement.
and they're okay with that. They really just want to hear, what can I do? And if you say, cut your hair, get some teeth, let's go to the gym, they're like, okay, I'll do it. Some of them fight against it. Some of them get really uncomfortable because they're not ready for it yet. But most of them, when they come to me, they're ready. They're like, this has not worked for the past 20 years. What do I do now? Or this didn't work with my ex-wife. What do I do now? Right? So we have the bare bones basics of the physical appearance that we have to work on. And then we get to the mentality, and then we get to their belief systems and their values. And then we get to the tools that they have to use for attraction, where they learn how to flirt, they learn how to banter. Really what they're learning to do is have fun with life and not take it so seriously. So, it's very nice to be able to just say bluntly to a man, would you sleep with you right now? And they have to really look at themselves and say, yeah, you know what? I probably wouldn't. Okay. So now there's work to be done. We're not going to change who you are. We're just going to zhuzh up what we've got in front of us. And that's going to take effort from you. And if you're willing to put the effort in, we're willing to put the effort in too, and we're going to make this happen. And then there's a whole path to success afterwards of really taking ownership of who you are and being proud of who you are and sharing that with other people. So when you ask the question, or even make the statement, everybody deserves love, it's weird. Recently, I've had a reaction to that word deserve because I don't actually believe it. I don't think people deserve to have love. I think that people should and can want to have love in their lives. And if they're open to it, they will get more than enough of it. That's what I think. I don't think anybody deserves to be loved. I know that's a harsh thing because then I'm like, oh, but don't children just deserve to be loved because they're innocent? It's the word itself, and passing that word on to other people. I feel like, I don't know. It's like it's doing them a disservice, because then they're like, yeah, I deserve to be loved. I can be really bitchy to men, or I can be really horrible to women, and I can do this, and this, but I deserve to be loved. I don't think you deserve to be loved at that point. I think you deserve to be loved when you're also loving to other people. You're authentic. You have clear intentions. You communicate confidently and authentically and honestly to other people in your lives. Then you can deserve to be loved if you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of others too. So I have a mixed feelings about that statement.
I completely understand where you're coming from, and I think I agree. One area where my ideas diverge a bit is just my spiritual understanding. In the question I was going to follow up with this, because you had said, like, we're not going to change who you are. And what I wanted to ask was, when you're working with men and you're asking who they are, I find that that's a really hard thing for people to get to. They've got to be working on themselves for years to understand. I think a majority of the people are identifying with the wrong labels. They're like very surface level ego, whereas I'm like, my personality self versus my essence. Like, what is the difference? And so at essence, I believe that everyone deserves love. I think that their ego and their bad habits block it, and that is deserving. You have to get to a point of clarity and like actually find that the truth, the love within you. And even in saying deserve love, it's my belief that it's my thoughts. I've been playing with this new thing where, what happens if I believe nothing and just think a lot? How much more fluid can I go in life, and how much less will I be identifying with the wrong things? So to that point, I think that oftentimes the best way to even finding love externally is first activating it within ourselves. When I started to
100%.
love myself and heal and stop beating myself down with my own toxic thought playlist, my husband appeared.
I totally agree. I'm very in line with everything that you just said. And I completely agree with that, because you're right. Most of our negative behaviors, I believe, are from protection, defense, insecurity, or discomfort, right? And therefore, our outwardly acts aren't necessarily a real mirror to what's going on inside. But when our outwardly acts continue to be our outwardly acts towards other people, without change or without recognition or without ownership, that's when I think that somebody is not deserving, because they haven't worked on that yet. Kind of exactly like what you said. At the core, like even when we talked about before, it's all fears that are there. And it's all even from, childhood, of people telling you you're not good enough, or that they hit you or they molest you in some way. There's like this lack of belief of value. So you're right. Once you can clear all the guck off, if you can, then at that core, that core 100% deserves love. But you got to clear the guck off, and you have to make an effort to do so.
When you tell people that we're not going to change who they are, what have been the reactions around that? Because I can see at least a lot of the men I know that aren't in the spiritual world or this self-development world, that wouldn't appear on this podcast or be one of my main listeners. Yeah, that, as I said a minute ago, that who I am is kind of muddy. It's like, no, I watch football after work. That's who I am. And no, I'm a little bit abrasive. That's who I am. And I'm like, ooh, those are the things you think you are? If any of those things was who I am, I'd feel like a shell of a person. What I identify with as who I am is that spark within me, the gifts that I add to this world. And so I'm just curious how that tends to go with your clients.
Well, they're actually relieved to hear that I'm not going to change who they are, because that's what their biggest fear is. I don't want to become this kind of person. I don't want to become that kind of person. I don't want to learn lines. I don't want to learn routines. I don't want to become a fake version of myself, which I totally get. Doesn't mean we're not going to hold a mirror up to you so that you can see what you're presenting to the world and what other people are taking in and what your words are telling people to believe about you. So even like that adamant thought of, I'm this kind of person, if you express that to another person, that will have impact on them.
Yeah.
You can express the exact same thing in 5 different ways, and everybody will have a different reaction to it. And we're there to show men how women are responding to it, how they're taking you in, how they're becoming emotionally attached to a certain portion of you, how they're becoming attracted to a certain portion of you, how they can stop themselves from being attracted to a certain portion of you because you're not displaying it in a way that they can take in. So they're very relieved to not be changed. Instead, we're just opening up their mind to different ways that they can express the same things that pull people in versus push them away. Because most of the guys right now that I work with, they're repelling women without even knowing that they're doing that. They are.
Summer's here, and Nordstrom has everything you need for your best dress season ever. From beach days and weddings to weekend getaways and your everyday wardrobe. Discover stylish options under $100 from tons of your favorite brands like Mango, Skims, Princess Polly, and Madewell. It's easy too, with free shipping and free returns, in-store order pickup, and more. Shop today in stores, online at Nordstrom.com, or download the Nordstrom app.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want is a great feeling. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
So many men are doing that these days.
But so many women are doing that too.
Yeah.
So many women are and it is because we have these barriers. We've been hurt so many times before. We don't want to get screwed over. We don't want to be taken advantage of. We don't want to be seen as a woman who just sleeps with everybody. We don't want to be seen as a man who just, buys women's affections. There's like so many labels that we don't want to be seen as, that we become completely protective of ourselves. And we don't, like exactly what you said, the essence, we don't allow our essence to really be seen by other people, because if you show your essence to somebody, they don't like it, or they squash it, or they try to squash it in some way, that can have a huge impact on you if you're not strong enough to take it.
Yeah. And I think so much of this is happening subconsciously. They're not
Oh,
saying,
100%.
oh, I'm not going to show my essence because it's too vulnerable. It's like you're doing these things. You're like, why am I even doing this? And you have to like journal to get it down. Oh, this happened in childhood. Oh, this has been protecting me since I was 8.
No, but you're totally right about that. Like, no, none of us do these things on purpose, and it's all subconscious. Like, even when I talk to men and I'll say something like, oh, a woman's testing you, I always put air quotes, because I don't think a test is really a test at all. It's just the way that many men, they resonate with that word, but it doesn't actually make sense for what women are doing, right?
Yes.
I'll always say, it's not like a woman writes down on a list and says, how can I test Brad today to see if he like there's no manipulation coming on. It's just completely subconscious. And it's a way for her to see, like, who is this guy that's trying to pick me up? Who's this guy that I'm dating? Are we going to like the same things? Does he like doing these things for me? When probably it is better to be more authentic, probably how you were with your husband, and say, I really like it when men take me out on walks. I'm not putting words into your mouth, but I'm just saying an example, right? But instead you're like, women will subtly say those things and see if he picks up on it. And then if he doesn't do it, then they kind of get mad, right? So I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent again, but my point is that most of it is not meant to be hurtful or manipulative, and it's not premeditated. All of it happens subconsciously, and it's just human behavior that is done because of protecting.
Yeah. And when I look back and say, if I was just cataloging this out, it looks like a game I was playing. It looks like I was playing hard to get or whatever it is. And even with my husband in the beginning, I was standoffish because I liked him so much. I wanted to be friends. I wanted him in my life. And I was like, if we start dating, this is going to end. All the other ones have ended. And so we were both sort of not going there straight away. Mind you, he lived in Big Bear. I lived in LA. I was staying the night quite often. We were sleeping in the same bed, but we weren't touching. And then we just couldn't deny it anymore. And he took me to the top of a mountaintop and had our first kiss. But we were both kind of playing that hard to get game, not playing hard to get at all, though. It looked like that. Instead, we were both prioritizing the friendship. We met through a friend. We didn't want to muddy that. But I think through that, we got to know each other differently because we didn't sleep together right away. And he was leaning in to like still be friends. And I would like the way he was handling everything was attractive to me. And so even with other ones that were more gamey, where I'm like, oh no, pushing him away, it's because I wasn't interested yet. And then maybe the way he meant that was like, I really like the way he handled that. Now I'm more interested. That's what's always going on my end. I'm not like, I don't even have the self-control to be like, nope.
Me too.
He needs to respond. I'm responding immediately.
I'm responding right away, 100%. I'm doing it right now. I'm exactly the same as you. I don't have like the willpower to do all of that stuff. Yeah. I love that story that you just told, because I think that's so real. But the negative part of that is that if it doesn't work out, the other side, to protect themselves afterwards, only see it as leading me on, right? They only see those negatives. It's really hard to see that other side, that it was genuine, it was insecurity, it was from all of these protective mechanisms. It's really hard to see that that's where the other person is coming from when you feel hurt, or you feel let down, or you feel like you've been misguided or misled.
I have sent text messages to my previous partners that weren't evil. One of them was, there's this guy, and he was a good relationship overall. We weren't compatible, but he was right after my most toxic relationship, the one who I went to jail for a crime he was secretly committing, like a bad one. And I was just so screwed over by that guy before that I did not understand peace in a relationship. And so I realized after I was out of it that I was picking fights. And it was kind of like we're talking about of testing him without knowing I was testing him. It's like I needed a surge of love right then. So I was going to pick something and he better respond well. And he never did. I mean, he responded how probably a sane person would respond.
A normal person would do that.
Why are we arguing over these things or whatever it was? And it was all very subtle, but like 6 years later, I ended up sending him a message and I was just like, has been on my heart lately, but I just want to say, like, I know we weren't compatible, but I really appreciated our relationship and it got me out of what I was going through before. It showed me some things. I did a lot of reflecting and I see how I did this, and this. And so I just wanted to send you love and blessings into your future. And it is so healing to be able to do that because I think a part of us always wonders, like there was a period of time where I was sitting there looking back at my behavior and I was almost embarrassed. There was a little bit of shame once I could see it. And instead of taking that with me, like, yeah, I could sit there and just heal it myself, which is also a route to go. But
spread the love.
It was healing for me to be able to send that off. And then it's like, it doesn't matter how he sees me now. And he ended up sending back something nice. And now we're just friends on socials.
That's amazing. My friends, okay, so I live in LA, but my friends in Toronto probably think I'm like the craziest person now, right? So I go home every single summer and my friend Melissa, every time I go back, I talk to her about like somebody who I had hurt when I was younger and how if I run into them this summer, I'm going to apologize. Like all of these things that I realized during the year that I'm like, oh God, what I did was really horrible to that person. I remember last year at the gym that I belonged to during the summertime, Margot Gaines was there from camp when I was younger. And I had thought about how mean I was to her when I was younger. And I went up to her and I was like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm so sorry for how I treated you. It was just total insecurity on my part. I forget. I like rambled for a few minutes and she's like, I didn't even think about that, but thank you for saying that. And again, exactly as you just said, I don't care what she does with that afterwards. She can go make fun of me. She can go do whatever she wants. It's off my shoulders now. And I feel great about it. But my friend, Melissa's like, why are you doing that? Why do you want to tell people I'm sorry? It just like, I feel the same way as you. It bogs you down. And when you realize it, you're like, okay, either I'm going to thank you for something or I'm going to apologize to you for something. And I think it's so healing.
Yeah. I've done the same thing with every single person that I can consciously think back to hurting, including a girl I called fat in middle school because I had just been called fat. And it was like actually affecting my worldview where I was like, oh, well, this is how you have to be cool. And I like said something to this other girl. And there was a period of time when it was probably about 8 years ago. I could not sleep. It was all of a sudden keeping me up or I was having dreams about it. And I was like, I can find her on Facebook. And then another
apologize.
That was great. I was just like,
I love that. I think that's such a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. But to bring it back to the point that we were making before, like all of these things happen, these behaviors, you calling her fat, it's from an insecurity, it's from a protective state, it's from a, protective mechanism. It's not consciously meant to hurt. And so that's how I think you have to approach the dating space. Right? So that you don't continuously have this scab on your arm that you keep picking every single time that you date. You understand that you're dating, things aren't going to work out. You might get hurt, but nobody is actively out to get you in any way at all. They're all just trying to do the best they can with what they have at that time.
One other thing that you talk about in your 8 rules for being single successfully is about tapping into creativity. How does that help us?
Oh my God, being creative. Okay, so there's so many guys that I work with who are like, well, Marni, I live in a small town. I have no women to meet. I was like, so there's no women in your town? He's like, oh no, there are women in my town. Okay, so what do they do? Well, I don't know where they go. And I don't know what they want to do. So I'll flip it onto them. Well, you're single, you want to meet other single people. And you just said there are other single women in your town. You've seen them and there isn't a space for you to meet them. Why don't you be creative and start singles events or start some other event with something that you're very passionate about? This one guy that we worked with, he loves DJing. He used to DJ at the local bar, but they shut down that bar. There's like 2 other bars. They don't have, it's like different theme nights. And I said, well, did people go to that bar to listen to your music? He said, yeah, a lot of people went to that bar. There were girls there. They listened to that music. And I said, well, then aren't they craving that music in your small town? Why don't you give them a space for that to exist? So I do this with my children as well. I don't want to only thinking about doors that are closing. I want to think about how we can open doors continuously. My husband always says there's a problem, there's a solution to every problem. That is a thing he drills into my head and into their head. Don't go backwards and think about what doesn't exist or what isn't happening for you. Think about how things can exist and things can move forward for you. It's the and in dating that is so important. If something doesn't exist that facilitates your dating needs, create it. If something doesn't exist right in front of you, go find it somewhere else. That is why the internet is so, like, this is the lovely side of the internet. It makes it so easy to find things that exist out there. If you think a certain way, there's a community that thinks the same way as you. Whether they're in your small town or they're somewhere in Idaho, whatever it is, you can find them and you can find like-minded people. So it's about working your creative brain to really think about the potential options rather than the potential lack of options.
One of my signature lines is using your limitations as guideposts.
Yeah,
Life just really opened up when I started doing that. I used to only see the doors closed, especially because of my crazy past. And then when I started saying, like, what if this is actually guiding me toward exactly what I need? How do I do that? And it's funny that you even mentioned those examples, because when I met my husband up in Big Bear, I was like, I've been wanting to learn to snowboard. What a great time. So I bought a season pass. And he was impressed because all of a sudden I come with a snowboard and a season pass. And he's like, well, this girl's awesome. But recently, the same thing has been happening with friends. I did something last year where I was like, I just miss deep conversations. So I started trying to host my mom friends over for like the question cards, but it still felt lacking just a little bit. I was missing my like conscious LA vibe people. And so instead of telling myself continuously, oh, I'm in a small town that doesn't exist up here, I put out a post on our Facebook group, because we have a really active Facebook group here. And I got so many responses that I was like, I'm creating a different Facebook group called the Big Bear Conscious Collective. I just did this last week. I'm hosting a meditation in the forest by my house this Saturday. Several people volunteered to do sound bath and this biofield tuning stuff. And I just found my people all at once. The very next day, I got a call from one of my friends who said, hey, this little hotel up here is trying to cultivate a wellness community. And so all of a sudden they had a meeting for us. They're telling us we can do events there for free. That was something I did not have any control over. I got chills
when you told me that. Yeah, that's amazing.
When you put it out there, when you actually take creative action, the universe meets you. And it feels almost magical, but that woman that called me saw my post online. She joined my Facebook group. So she thought of me when this other idea came up. So you're much more likely to have these scenarios that feel really lucky if you're clear on what you want and then taking action toward it.
You put it out there. That's it. It's so funny because oh my God, my family is very different from me. So when my mom comes to me with like something that she's frustrated with, I'll say, hey, go put a post here, go do this, go look into these groups. And she just becomes paralyzed. It's very hard for her. And she's like, I'll just do nothing. She's like, she would rather swim in the negative than put herself out there. And that happens to a lot of people, which I understand. But I really, through this whole journey of working with these amazing men that I get to work with, I have learned about how important it is to hold your head up so that you can see the options in front of you at all times, and then ask for what you want. Because the only way to get what you want is by asking for it and putting it out there. And that's exactly what you did, and it's amazing. But you're right, it does feel lucky, right? But it's not. It's just so many other people don't do that. That it seems like you're special because these things are coming your way, but because you're one of the only ones who are putting it out there to do it, you energize other people to latch onto you and to be attracted to you, to make movement happen. And so like one of the main things that I talk about on my website and my videos, I always tell, like, this will make people everybody around you attracted to you. And I think so many people, when they hear that statement, they think, oh, it means they want to have sex with me or get naked with me. But really what I'm trying to say is that if you do these things, which is open yourself up to the world,
they'll slip it in.
Look a little bit. Suddenly, eliminate some of these past beliefs that you have. Like, these are the things that are going to get people to notice you and to see you. That's what I mean by attracted to you. They see you as an option, and then all these other tools come into play to decide whether or not you guys have chemistry.
So if you were going to leave listeners with one thing to either do or think about this week to kind of bring this into their life, what would it be?
Well, actually, it's what I just said. The only way to get what you want is by asking for it. So whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, start opening your mouth and asking for the things that you want. If you want to start dating right now, but you have no idea where to start, you say that to every person that you talk to. I'm really wanting to start dating right now, but I don't know where to start looking. Can you tell me 3 places to meet people? Can you tell me 3 people in your life right now that are single, right? For practice, whether or not they're your soulmate or whatever. It's really just asking for what it is that you want and spreading that information around so that things can come back to you. Because you just said how successful you were when you opened your mouth. So people can do exactly the same things and they can feel like the lucky ones on the back end.
Well, for listeners who want to work with you or find out more about your offerings, where's the best place to connect?
They can go to winggirlmethod.com. That's 2 G's, winggirlmethod.com. I do mainly work with men, but I have created a couple of programs for women. One that is called That's Not How Men Work, which has taken all of the information that I've learned from men and given that guidance to women to just get them to have a more clear head to understand men. But mainly it's go to winggirlmethod.com.
All the links from this episode will be at mindlove.com/404. Your challenge for this week is to open your mouth and ask for what you want, which means that you also need to know what you want. So whether you're single and ready to start dating or you're in a relationship but you want to deepen it, stop waiting for things to magically happen and start speaking up. Tell 3 people in your life that you are actively looking to meet someone, or ask your partner for something specific that you've been wanting in your relationship. The only way to get what you want is by asking for it, and you'll be amazed at how the universe responds when you're really clear about your desires. So give it a try and let me know how it goes. You can reach out to me at mindlovemelissa. And speaking of asking for what you want, I'm expanding Story Love right now, and some really big things are being launched and added to it. So if you want the very last chance to get in on the beta price that this current group got in on, reach out to me on Instagram at mindlovemelissa and tell me that you want to learn how to share your story. This is your opportunity to transform not just how you tell your story, but how you live it. And if you need some time to just get your head right, listen to a few more podcast episodes, get inspired a little more, sign up for the Morning Mind Love. You can find it at mindlove.com or text the word morning to 33777 for just a little dose of inspiration from your higher self delivered right to your inbox every weekday. You can find all of my sponsors at mindlove.com/sponsors. And thanks for giving your mind a little love today, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning into Your Higher Frequency with Mind Love. Head to mindlove.com for a free gift to keep your vibes up until next week.